Gaming Bolt presents 15 things you need to know before you buy Call of Duty World War II. For the first time in almost a decade, the Call of Duty franchise is going back to its World War II roots. Call of Duty World War II is looking to freshen things up by going back to the basics, and this is definitely a series that needs to freshen things up. It is obvious that we're quite excited about World War II. Here in this feature, we're going to take a look at 15 of the most interesting pieces of information on the upcoming first-person shooter, just in time for its launch. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. The campaign will portray several historic battles. What with World War II being the first game in the series to go back to the Second World War after such a long time, fans are obviously expecting developers Sledgehammer to go big with the campaign, and it looks like they aim to do just that. The campaign for Call of Duty World War II will follow the story of a single squad in the 1st Infantry Division, and their battles in the Western Front in the European theater of war. And we'll be seeing a lot of iconic and historic battles being portrayed in the campaign, including the invasion of Normandy, the Battle of Aachen, and the Battle of the Bulge, and many, many more. Campaign length. Call of Duty is a series that is known mostly for its online experience rather than solo ones, and as such, the games in the series have never really been known for having long campaigns, at least not in the last decade or so. In fact, their campaigns usually last no more than 5 to 6 hours. Sledgehammer Games' previous game, Advanced Warfare, was a little longer, clocking in at around 6 to 7 hours, and it seems the campaign will be even longer in this year's World War II. While we don't know exactly how long the single-player campaign will be, Sledgehammer Games have confirmed that it will be slightly longer than the one in Advanced Warfare. Squad members. Call of Duty World War II may be returning to the Second World War, but rather than going with a massive, explosive global story, developers Sledgehammer are going for a more grounded story, choosing instead to focus on the war through the eyes of a single infantry unit. As such, we'll be following this specific set of characters for presumably the entirety of the game. These characters, however, will have an impact on more than just the story. You'll be relying on your squad mates for a lot of things, including health packs, ammunition, and spotting enemies during recon. And yes, you will be needing health packs. No more health regeneration. Regenerating health has been a staple of the Call of Duty franchise for many years now. The mechanic is one that is found in most games today, irrespective of the genre or the franchise the game may belong to, but especially if it is a shooter. Call of Duty World War II won't feature regenerating health. Instead, players will have to rely on health pickups they find in the environment, which is also why the health packs that are provided by your squad mates will be so important. Hopefully this will have an actual impact on the gameplay and maybe even contribute towards the game providing more of a challenge. Vehicle sections. Set pieces have been a big attraction in Call of Duty's campaigns throughout the years, even if the single-player experience is not the most prominent one. And a large majority of these set-piece moments throughout the years have involved vehicles in some form or another. That much at least won't be changing in Call of Duty World War II since the campaign will feature several vehicle sections. One particular section, in fact, will put players inside of a tank and give them control of it, so judging by that, we're expecting some good stuff from this game. Movement style has changed. Rather than running across walls, using jetpacks, using bots, and sliding on the ground, as have been the case in the last few games of this franchise, Call of Duty World War II will feature a more boots-to-the-ground approach. As you may have guessed, this means that players will be moving around quite different in World War II. For one thing, infinite sprinting is a thing of the past now, and there will be no more double jumping or wall running. Additionally, World War II is also replacing the mechanic that allows players to slide into cover. Instead, players will now be able to leap forward and throw themselves to the ground. We expect this mechanic to change the way that we play the game quite a lot, especially in the competitive multiplayer. New mechanics. The ability to hit the deck rather than sliding into cover is not going to be the only new gameplay mechanic featured in Call of Duty World War II. In Call of Duty World War II, players will also be able to capture enemy soldiers, while the importance of cover also looks to have been increased in terms of the gunplay, since you will be able to drag downed allies and squad members to cover in order to take them out of the firing line and then heal them. Additionally, there will also be a metagame leveling system, with the players getting XP for doing certain things, killing enemies and completing objectives, which will help players improve their character skills. Divisions. Rather than having a regular class system, Call of Duty World War II will be making quite a big change to the franchise's multiplayer gameplay formula, and will instead feature a new mechanic known as divisions. Players will now have to select one of 5 divisions while playing online, and each of these will have their own advantages, disadvantages, weapons, upgrades, and skills. For instance, while one division will let players play as heavily armored soldiers, another will let players specialize in long-ranged gunplay. Players will have to progress and level up through these divisions in order to earn newer and better abilities that they can then use online. This, of course, means that there will be no more perks, which is quite a big departure from the series' formula. Headquarters. Headquarters is another new feature in Call of Duty World War II, and it's actually quite a big one, since it will be acting as a sort of social hub for your online World War II experience. The headquarters will be set on the Omaha Beach in Normandy, and will allow players to take part in several activities. These activities will include everything from opening loot boxes and going to the firing range to testing out your score streaks in a field and engaging in 1v1 fights against other players, which other players will be able to view online as well. Replacing the KILLCAM. And here's another big change that Call of Duty World War II will be making. KILLCAMs, which have been synonymous with the series' multiplayer experience for so many years, will no longer be included in this year's game. Instead, they will be featured by the Bronze Star, a mechanic that is quite a lot like what you might see in Overwatch. At the end of every multiplayer match, the Bronze Star will show the best kills of the match, or the kills deemed most impressive. However, the Bronze Star won't be part of the Search and Destroy game mode. Nazi Zombies. Sledgehammer Games are taking a leaf out of fellow Call of Duty developers Treyarch's books, which means that Call of Duty World War II will feature a Zombies mode, which was introduced in World at War and grew in popularity with each successive entry in the Black Ops trilogy. The Zombies mode will feature co-op action and will have its own standalone narrative, set in an alternate timeline in which the Third Reich makes a desperate attempt to turn the tide of war in its final stages by creating an army of undead soldiers. Zombies mode experience similar to Dead Space. While the narrative setup of the Zombies mode belongs in the realms of science fiction more than anything else, Sledgehammer Games have stated that it will, in fact, be based on and draw inspiration from real-life events during the Second World War. More interestingly, though, the Nazi Zombies experience will be quite similar in nature to the Dead Space games. Sledgehammer studio heads Michael Condrey and Glenn Schofield were both once the heads of Dead Space creators Visceral Games over at EA, and they've confirmed that they will be taking cues from their past experiences with the horror series in the Nazi Zombies mode. Class system in Zombies mode. Developers Sledgehammer Games are apparently putting a lot of effort into their game's Zombies mode, and it looks like there's going to be a lot of depth for players to be able to sink time into. In fact, World War II's Zombies mode will have its very own class system. Players will have to choose from one of 4 available classes, those being Offense, Medic, Control, and Support. As you can imagine, each of these classes will have unique abilities, and we expect this class system to work quite well with the objectives and locations-based gameplay loop of World War II's Zombies mode. Loadouts and perks. The Zombies mode in World War II will also feature custom loadouts, which kind of goes hand in hand with having a class system. More interestingly, though, it will also feature abilities that are unlocked permanently through progression, which will work quite a lot like multiplayer perks. These will be similar in nature to Black Ops 3's Gobblegums, except that these will actually be permanent unlocks. PS4 Pro and Xbox One X support. Call of Duty World War II will become the first game in the series to leverage the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X to deliver enhanced, better visuals than console gamers are otherwise accustomed to. PS4 Pro enhancements are officially confirmed, and Sledgehammer contends that the game will take full advantage of all of the added power Sony's more powerful console affords them, with dynamic resolution ranging from 1440 by 1620 to 2880 by 1620, and enhancements to the facial animations and the game's headquarters mode. Xbox One X enhancements have not been officially confirmed yet, but they have been leaked. And given just how much more powerful the Xbox One X is than anything else on the market, we can't wait to see how World War II looks on it. Consistent 4K resolution as well as implementation of HDR output, perhaps one can always hope. And that'll be about it for this one. If you guys like what we're doing at Gaming Bolt, please consider subscribing to our channel, and I'll see you guys on the next video.